My fiancé's childhood friend tried to sabotage our wedding, but karma had other plans. My fiancée, Sarah, and I have been together for 5 wonderful years. We met in college, fell in love, and have been inseparable ever since. She's the kindest, most supportive, and beautiful woman I've ever known, and I genuinely believed we were destined to spend our lives together. We got engaged last year and have been meticulously planning our dream wedding, set to take place in a beautiful vineyard this coming autumn. Everything was going perfectly, or so I thought. This story involves Sarah's childhood friend, Olivia, who, from the moment I met her, gave me unsettling vibes, a feeling I unfortunately dismissed as baseless jealousy. Olivia and Sarah had been friends since kindergarten. They grew up next door to each other, went through all the awkward phases of puberty together, and were practically sisters. Sarah often spoke of Olivia with a nostalgic fondness, describing their shared adventures, secrets, and an unbreakable bond. When I first met Olivia, however, her demeanor was far from warm. She was overtly critical of my profession, my hobbies, and even my taste in clothes. She'd make snide remarks veiled as jokes, often at my expense, and would frequently interrupt me when I spoke, immediately turning her attention back to Sarah as if I were merely an inconvenient prop in their long-standing narrative. Sarah, ever the diplomat, would try to smooth things over, attributing Olivia's behavior to her quirky personality or her protective nature when it came to her oldest friends. I tried to give Olivia the benefit of the doubt, telling myself that perhaps she was just wary of a new person entering Sarah's life, a common enough reaction for close friends. As our engagement progressed, Olivia's behavior escalated from subtly hostile to overtly malicious. She started making comments about Sarah and me being too different, or how Sarah was settling. She'd reminisce constantly about Sarah's past relationships, especially one with a high school boyfriend named Mark, often implying that he was the one that got away or that Sarah was secretly still pining for him. These comments would always be delivered with a sickly sweet smile, as if she were imparting profound, albeit painful, wisdom. Sarah would always shut her down, assuring me that Olivia was just being silly, and that her feelings for me were absolute and unwavering. I believed her, of course, but the constant chipping away at my confidence, the insidious suggestions that our relationship was somehow flawed, began to take a toll. The wedding planning itself became a battleground. Sarah, wanting to include Olivia in a meaningful way, asked her to be a bridesmaid. I voiced my reservations, gently suggesting that Olivia's negativity might overshadow the joyous occasion, but Sarah insisted, citing their long history and how much it would mean to her. I reluctantly agreed, hoping that perhaps the responsibility would temper Olivia's attitude. I was wrong. Olivia became a constant source of stress. She would criticize every decision Sarah made, from the floral arrangements to the catering menu. She'd frequently forget to respond to group messages about fittings or planning meetings, causing unnecessary delays and frustration. When she did respond, it would be with passive-aggressive comments about how busy she was, or how Sarah's choices were questionable, but she'd go along with it for Sarah's sake. The most egregious incident occurred during Sarah's bachelorette party. Sarah had envisioned a relaxed weekend at a spa with her closest friends. Olivia, however, hijacked the planning, insisting on a wild night out in a city 3 hours away, complete with a male stripper and excessive drinking, knowing full well that Sarah preferred a more subdued celebration. Sarah, trying to be accommodating, went along with it, but she confided in me afterward that she felt incredibly uncomfortable and that Olivia's insistence on a specific kind of party felt more about Olivia's desires than Sarah's. The night culminated in Olivia getting excessively drunk and making a scene, loudly declaring that Sarah was making a mistake marrying me and that she deserved better. One of the other bridesmaids, genuinely concerned, called me to let me know what was happening. I was furious, but tried to remain calm for Sarah's sake. When Sarah returned, she was tearful and apologetic, assuring me that Olivia's words were just drunken nonsense. I told her I believed her, but inside, a knot of dread was tightening. Despite all the drama, we powered through, trying to focus on our love and the beautiful future we were building. The wedding day finally arrived. The weather was perfect, the vineyard looked stunning, and Sarah, in her wedding dress, was breathtaking. I felt an overwhelming sense of joy and relief that we had made it to this point. The ceremony was beautiful, and as we exchanged our vows, I truly felt like the luckiest man alive. The reception began, and everything was going smoothly. Guests were enjoying themselves, the music was lively, and Sarah and I were relishing every moment. Then, during the toasts, Olivia stepped up to the microphone. I braced myself, a cold premonition washing over me. She started with a seemingly sweet anecdote about Sarah's childhood, but then her tone shifted. She began to recount stories about Sarah and Mark, painting a picture of an idyllic, passionate romance that was tragically cut short. She spoke of their undeniable chemistry and how everyone always assumed they would end up together. She even showed a framed photograph of Sarah and Mark from their high school prom, which she had apparently brought with her, completely disregarding the context of the day. Sarah's face paled, and she shot Olivia a look of utter betrayal. I felt a surge of anger, but tried to maintain my composure. Olivia's voice grew louder, and her words became more pointed. She claimed that Sarah had always been too kind for her own good, and that she had a tendency to settle for people who weren't truly her match. She looked directly at me, a venomous smirk playing on her lips, and then, in a dramatic flourish, she announced that she had spoken to Mark, who was now single and successful, and that he had expressed regret about letting Sarah go. The room fell silent. You could literally hear a pin drop before anyone could react. Sarah, with a newfound strength and fury that I had never witnessed before, snatched the microphone from Olivia's hand. Her voice, though trembling slightly, was clear and resolute. She looked directly at Olivia, her eyes blazing. "Olivia," she said, her voice laced with barely suppressed rage, "you have been a terrible friend, not just today, but for a very long time. Your constant negativity, your jealousy, and your pathetic attempts to sabotage my happiness are disgusting. Mark is a part of my past, a past I moved on from a long time ago. My future, my love, my entire world is standing right there," she said, turning and pointing to me, her eyes softening as she met mine. "And I would never, ever, trade him for anything or anyone." A collective gasp went through the room. Olivia, caught completely off guard, stood there, frozen, her face a mixture of shock and humiliation. Sarah then turned to the assembled guests, her voice regaining its earlier joy. "I apologize for this unfortunate interruption. Let's focus on love, happiness, and the beautiful celebration of our marriage." The DJ, sensing the need to shift the atmosphere, immediately started playing a lively song, and the guests, after a moment of stunned silence, began to clap and cheer, clearly on Sarah's side. As Sarah walked back to our table, she was met with a chorus of support and hugs from her other bridesmaids and friends. Olivia, meanwhile, looked utterly shattered. She tried to approach Sarah, but one of the other bridesmaids, a formidable woman named Jessica, stepped in front of her, blocking her path and saying, "I think you're done here, Olivia." Olivia, looking around at the hostile gazers, finally seemed to grasp the enormity of her miscalculation. She mumbled something inaudible, grabbed her purse, and slunk out of the reception, head bowed in shame. The rest of the evening was truly magical. Sarah and I danced, laughed, and celebrated our love with our friends and family. The incident with Olivia, though initially jarring, actually served to strengthen our bond and solidify the support we felt from our loved ones. Guests came up to us throughout the night, commending Sarah's strength and assuring us that Olivia's actions were inexcusable. In the days following the wedding, Sarah officially ended her friendship with Olivia. She sent Olivia a text message, stating clearly that she could no longer have someone so toxic and destructive in her life. Olivia, surprisingly, never responded, which Sarah took as a sign of her own guilt and shame. We later heard through mutual acquaintances that Olivia had become somewhat of a pariah among their shared friend group. Her actions at our wedding were widely condemned, and many of her own long-standing friendships dissolved as a result. It seems karma truly does work in mysterious ways. Sarah and I are now happily married, building our life together, free from a shadow of Olivia's negativity. We learned a valuable lesson about identifying and removing toxic people from our lives, even when those people have a long history with us. Our wedding day, despite the brief hiccup, became an even more powerful testament to our love and resilience. I am so incredibly proud of Sarah, not just for her strength and courage in standing up to Olivia, but for her unwavering love and commitment to me. It's a reminder that true love can conquer anything, even a jealous, manipulative friend with a misguided agenda.